but I do feel like if you have a problem with Abby's content and a problem with Abbey, or maybe she is potentially triggering for you, maybe she makes you feel like she's enabling certain behaviours, I think your feelings are completely valid. You're right in saying that's problematic for you, and I don't think it's wrong of you to turn around and say, actually, I'm not going to consume this content anymore. I think sometimes I do believe Abbey can let emotion drive her content. A video that's kind of been in the works for quite some time since I first covered Abbey Sharp a few months ago, and a video I feel like might receive some conflicting or let's say varying opinions. A lot of people seem to have problems with Abbey Sharp, how she presents herself in videos, and also the content she's promoting. So we're going to talk about that, but all I ask is, in doing so, watching this video, just bear with me. We're going to cover mental health, Liz, and some problems with Abbey, all based on my opinion, of course.
And I've been really transparent and vulnerable in sharing all of this, even though I definitely know that some people will automatically now see me as less than, or sick, or incapable of doing, amazing things with my life.
What seems to have occurred is Abbey created a video on Liz, discussing a few bits and bobs about her diet and whatnot. Liz then responded, discussing and, according to Abbey, pill-shaming Abbey for taking antidepressants, and that seems to have gone into a bit of a back and forth regarding Abbey now coming out and speaking about mental health, her views on Liz's video, which were two short-form content split across a part 1 and part 2, and the problems surrounding that. Firstly, with mental health, regardless of what anyone says, sadly mental health is heavily stigmatized. I often do speak about mental health from a personal perspective on my channel and also just publicly on social media, because for many years I firstly didn't understand what was going on in my head. For many years I felt like I wasn't able to speak about what was going on in my head, largely due to stigma and largely due to the fact that I was scared to see how people would respond to me once I actually came out and opened up about what was really going on. Yes, stigmatizing mental health is sadly a big thing, and no, it is absolutely not okay, because in doing so, not only does it devalue the struggles that someone might be facing, it also encourages people not to speak about their problems, which then in turn further feeds those problems and can potentially lead to further declines.
Often stigmatized as like crazy pills or addictive toxins. All of these kinds of antidepressants and other mood stabilizers have really long been assigned a really bad rap.
So medication is an interesting one. I am quite open about my thoughts on medication. I do believe medication can certainly help some people. Full transparency, due to the recent diagnosis of seemingly BPD and DID, I am taking a medication. I'm taking 25 milligrams of quetiapine, and no, I don't plan on staying on that for long. At this stage, it's not had any positive impact on my mental health. It's not decreased the episodes or helped me control the episodes. It just helps me sleep a bit. Before then, I was taking a lot of different medications. I was taking diazepam, lorazepam, metalzapine, olanzapine, pregabalin, all at horrendous dosages, and they were all at the same time from about 2016 to 2019. They had a really negative impact on my life. I was very dependent on them, and it actually made my life a lot worse being on them, because quite frankly I was on a cocktail of medications for symptoms of a greater problem that was never actually explored and investigated, which in turn had quite a negative knock-on effect on me, my ability to function, not only through universities but also in relationships and with friends too. I then abruptly decided to come off cold turkey. Big mistake, but power through, live life on expert difficulty, why not? And I had to deal with a lot of pretty nasty side effects, I would say significantly for a year, but considering I came off on May 11th, 2019, and obviously my sleep never recovered. Never had sleep issues before, sleep never recovered afterwards. So those are my views. I think medication could certainly help some people, but I think medication is a time and place sort of situation. If you are feeling a certain way for a reason, in my eyes, and from what I gathered from experience and from what I was struggling with, medication doesn't change what that reason is. If, God forbid, you are faced with some really bad news of something that has happened, medication does not change the fact that that news is being presented to you. And sometimes we need to process, grieve and mourn as necessary. I also understand that medication can help stabilize people. I also understand that medication can be useful, maybe even for short term, just to help you kind of take the edge off while you're undergoing treatment and therapy, or just to help you along your journey if you're struggling at a particular time. Do I think negatively of medication? Absolutely not. I think it is very much it depends. But I would never shame anybody for taking medication. At the end of the day, you need to do what's best for you, because your mental health and your well-being is a priority. And if medication helps you along your journey to reach a destination of hopefully being healthy and happy, then who am I to ever say that's wrong? And who is anybody to ever shame that? If it gets you where you need to go, or at least helps you along that journey, and it's enhancing your life, how is that ever a negative?
I have basically accepted that I have some underlying predispositions here that I will likely never be able to just fully cure. Not through diet, not through therapy, not through like prayer or meditation, not even through medication. I now know that my brain just kind of looks and functions differently than neurotypical folks.
Sadly, a lot of people do preach this, diet could fix that problem, or actually, if you ever considered doing this, you'd be healthy and cured. I'm actually with Abbey here. Sometimes diet can't fix everything. Sometimes there are problems that actually cannot be fixed. Sometimes these problems can be managed and maybe better controlled, but may never be cured. For example, there is inherently no cure for BPD. There's seemingly also no cure for DID. So does this mean that I'm gonna fix them by changing my diet, fix them by finding some medication cocktail that helps me, or fix them by meditating on a regular basis? Probably not. But what it does mean is that I can undergo interventions to best manage these problems, to help me control the symptoms, maybe even to the point, which I'm hopeful for, that I can actually go into remission from symptoms and no longer be presenting them. But the label of BPD/DID is going to be there for forever, probably, and that's okay, provided I can manage the symptoms to the point where it is no longer hindering my life and the lives of those around me. Very quickly, I'm going to throw it out there. Link down below, we have a few things. You've got the link to work with myself, Ryder, or Beth on a one-to-one basis where we will coach you online to reach your goals, whatever they may be. So click the link down below and have a look at the application form, which you can fill out, and maybe we have a consultation call to get to know each other a little better and maybe see what we can do for you. In addition to that, you've got the link to the TFNL workout guides, which are workout guides that include programs, so many weeks of programming, and also lots of information about training, fitness, and all sorts, including nutrition too, that could help you along your journey, that are currently on sale as we speak. That's for both the gym and the home environment, so you are given an option for anything you may have access to. There's also a link for the Train Heroic group coaching site, where for less than your Netflix subscription, you can follow a program created by myself, which allows you to work out either at home, at the gym, or just like me. And you also get entered into a community discussion board where you can talk to other people in the community who are doing the same program, potentially even share footage in there if you want some form analysis and advice, and also talk to me as well, as I'm in there pretty much every day. So if any of those tickle your pickle, have a gander down below. And this all stems from Liz's video where she's giving her response to Abbey and Abbey's views on her video surrounding her diet.
That's when I found my nutritionist who cured herself of chronic illness just through diet. When you started posting those videos, it was clear to me that you were stuck in the same place that I was stuck in. So for that reason, I decided to stop watching your videos and stop taking your advice. And I'm so glad that I did, because now I'm not on any pharmaceutical drugs. My depression and anxiety are gone. I've gained the weight and I have an amazing relationship with food.
It's fantastic to hear that Liz has fixed her relationship with food. It's fantastic to hear that Liz's mental health has improved. I love that. I think that's absolutely brilliant. That being said, I can understand a couple of points here. I'm never taking sides, because this is just simply me giving as much of an unbiased opinion as I can, simply on my thoughts and opinions. With Liz, I can understand why viewing Abbey's content might have been bad for her. In Liz's eyes, Abbey's content, or Abbey and herself, might have been enabling, encouraging, or maybe even triggering certain behaviours in Liz that weren't healthy for her. And to step away and to even acknowledge that as a problem, I think is huge. And sometimes stepping away from consuming somebody's content, despite whether they're doing it intentionally or not, sometimes might be the best thing. So I really appreciate Liz for doing that. I can also understand how this can be perceived as pill shaming, as Abbey said. So I do understand how Liz's tone and maybe how she's presenting this content and her views here can be perceived as deeming medication as a negative, or maybe even, like I said, potentially even shaming Abbey for taking pills to help with her mental health, which I don't think is appropriate. Again, maybe that's me, maybe that's a me problem, and maybe I'm interpreting it incorrectly, but I can understand how Abbey is also interpreting it, which seems to be in a similar way to how I am. To me, it does rub me the wrong way slightly, where it does seem a bit, maybe somewhat shaming to a degree. Maybe this could have been presented in a slightly more sensitive, or maybe more carefully articulated manner that could maybe eliminate any feelings of shaming that might be occurring here. But then we're actually going to talk about something else, which is Abbey. This is an interesting one because I've done a few videos with Abbey. I've done a few videos where I've actually agreed with some of the opinions she's presented about somebody's diet and whatnot, and also give my own opinions. But I've actually had a lot of feedback on those videos saying that people stopped watching Abbey's content because they deemed it to be problematic. They didn't like how Abbey came across. They felt she was maybe patronizing, somewhat aggressive potentially, and they just didn't really like her maybe exaggerated or maybe even somewhat inappropriate facial expressions and presentation of her content. And that kind of linked me back to a video I once saw from TNF. So TNF is a TikTok creator. He's obviously on Instagram as well. I believe he's on YouTube as well. I've met him before. He's exceptionally clued up in the whole realm of bodybuilding, resistance training, nutrition. He's taught me a lot, and he's a fantastic source of information. And like I said, I've met him in person, fantastic guy, genuinely lovely individual, a really nice human. Him and his wife were 10 out of 10 people, and I truly hope that I have another opportunity to meet them next year, and maybe even, who knows, potentially collaborate with them, because they were both genuinely brilliant people. And I saw this video from him, and we're going to talk about it.
Staying obese is a choice.
I'm sorry, what? You know what's actually a choice? Making asshole your default brand just for some cheap likes here on TikTok. What a privileged position to assume that this is some kind of scientific fitness truth. Because there are a number of evidence-based reasons why not everyone in the world is a size 2.
The contents of this video, which TNF has spoken about, not relevant to my conversation, so I'm not going to talk about it. And TNF, understandably, knows the social media game. He's exceptionally intelligent. Sometimes you do have to clickbait things, or sometimes you do have to promote things or present things in a certain manner to essentially increase engagement. It's effective on social media, and this is part of his job, social media. So I understand it. I do the same thing on YouTube. Look at the thumbnails, look at the titles. It's all for growth, reaching a new audience, and hopefully helping the audience we are reaching. Again, regardless of whether what's being presented here by either party is correct or incorrect, Abbey's approach, I can understand how it can be deemed as maybe emotional, potentially perceived as aggressive, and maybe even somewhat undermining. And this seems to be a common thing. Liz mentioned the same thing in her videos, where she said she felt like Abbey was kind of pulling inappropriate facial expressions and maybe presenting her argument or her criticisms in an inappropriate manner. And I can actually completely understand where people are coming from when they say this about Abbey. A lot of Abbey's information inherently is actually quite good. I'm not saying that I agree with everything. I'm simply stating that I think a lot of her information can be quite good. I think how she is presenting some information, I can see how it might be deemed to be problematic due to her approach, due to her maybe potentially narrow-minded views, or maybe even somewhat arguably problematic behaviours when it comes to addressing criticisms or addressing issues she may have with people's content. Do I think Abbey means harm? Absolutely not. I do give people the benefit of the doubt that no one is actively encouraging or meaning harm upon anybody, as I would like to hope that's not the case. But I do feel like if you have a problem with Abbey's content and a problem with Abbey, or maybe she is potentially triggering for you, maybe she makes you feel like she's enabling certain behaviours, I think your feelings are completely valid. You're right in saying that's problematic for you, and I don't think it's wrong of you to turn around and say, actually, I'm not going to consume this content anymore. I think sometimes I do believe Abbey can let emotion drive her content sometimes, where she maybe gets too emotional about the fact she's trying to present, which in turn could actually potentially devalue her argument and dilute the quality of her argument, because it's no longer being driven by fact and evidence, but sometimes actually being driven by emotion. And when emotion gets involved in these things, when you are actually trying to have a factual and objective discussion, it can negatively impact what is being presented and also how it's being presented, which then can actually also negatively impact how it's being interpreted by others. So I think the concluding message is this: mental health is stigmatized, and mental health is something that many of us will sadly face. Shaming somebody for taking pills is not the right way to go about things. Negatively viewing anybody for having a disorder, having a problem, or taking pills to help treat that problem is never a good thing. At the end of the day, you've got to do what's best for you, because your mental health is a priority. Sometimes people do need medication to help them along that journey. Sometimes they don't. When it comes to content, when it comes to criticizing content, letting emotion drive your thoughts and opinions is not going to be a good thing. I think letting emotion drive your thoughts and opinions is only going to make your content harder to dissect, harder to digest, and also potentially even reduces the quality of what you're presenting, which then in turn prevents more people from benefiting from what you're trying to do, and potentially even prevents more people from learning too. I think Liz could have presented her thoughts and opinions a bit better, but I also think Abbey could probably do the same thing, and maybe I could too. If somebody's content is problematic in your eyes, if you feel they're enabling behaviours, or if you feel they're triggering, please don't consume their content, and that includes me as well. If something's negatively impacting you, your life, and your mental health, it's not worth consuming. Consume the content that enhances your life, not the content that hinders your life. But again, those are just my thoughts and opinions. I'd love to hear your thoughts and whether you deem Abbey Sharp to be problematic or not in the comment section below. But until the next one, thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating an unnecessarily long waffle about multiple different topics in one video. And thank you for tolerating the video.